thought they could ruin me. But they had no idea who they were dealing with. I remember the exact moment when everything changed. The leather chair in the corner office felt cold against my back as Harrison, the CEO of Meridian Capital, slid a manila folder across his mahogany desk. His voice was ice. "We're letting you go, Daniel, effective immediately." 15 years I'd given to Meridian. I'd built their Asia-Pacific division from nothing, doubled our hedge fund returns 3 years running, and sacrificed countless weekends and holidays. And now, because I'd seen something I wasn't supposed to see, I was being discarded like yesterday's financial reports. "The severance package is generous," Harrison continued, not meeting my eyes. "Sign the NDA, and we all move on." What Harrison didn't know was that I'd spent the previous 3 weeks methodically archiving evidence of Meridian's extensive market manipulation scheme, a complex web of artificial trades designed to inflate the value of certain energy stocks right before major pension funds bought in. I discovered it accidentally while running routine risk assessments. When I brought my concerns to our compliance officer, I thought I was doing my job. I didn't realize I was signing my professional death warrant. The security escorted me from the building. My Meridian credentials already deactivated, I made a promise to myself. They took everything from me. So, I decided to return the favor. The downfall. The initial shock was paralyzing. My phone stopped ringing. Former colleagues wouldn't return my texts. Interviews at other firms mysteriously canceled. I'd been blacklisted. The whispers around Wall Street suggested I had violated ethics protocols and couldn't be trusted. My reputation, built over decades, was shattered in days. At night, I'd sit in my apartment overlooking the city lights, nursing a glass of scotch, feeling the rage build inside me. My marriage had already collapsed under the weight of my work schedule years earlier. This job was all I had left. And now, nothing. 2 months after my termination, I ran into Sarah, a junior analyst from Meridian's risk department, at a coffee shop. Unlike others, she didn't avoid me. Instead, she slipped me a flash drive. "I found more of what you were looking at," she whispered. "It's worse than you thought. They're cooking the books on the Zenith Energy acquisition. The whole thing's rotten." That night, reviewing Sarah's files, something shifted inside me. My humiliation transformed into cold determination. Meridian had underestimated me, catastrophically. I still had knowledge, I still had contacts, and now I had evidence. I began mapping everything on my apartment wall. Red strings connecting photos, documents, transaction records. Not in anger, but with the same methodical precision I'd applied to complex financial models throughout my career. This wasn't about impulsive revenge. This was about architectural collapse, identifying the precise supports to remove so the entire structure would crumble under its own corrupt weight. My strategy had 3 phases: information gathering, position building, and the trigger. For 2 months, I lived like a ghost. I met with former colleagues who'd left Meridian years earlier, but still maintained connections. I cultivated relationships with financial journalists, feeding them breadcrumbs about industry concerns without revealing my hand. I set up anonymous email accounts and secure messaging channels. I created an LLC in Wyoming to mask my financial movements. Most crucially, I reached out to Edward Chen, a former trading partner who now worked at the SEC's enforcement division. Over careful conversations, never explicit, always deniable, I helped him understand where to look. Hypothetically, I told him during one of our meetings in a quiet bar far from the financial district, if someone wanted to detect artificially inflated trading volumes in energy futures tied to specific dates, what patterns would raise red flags? The second phase was more delicate. Using the substantial remains of my savings and calling in favors from former clients who still trusted me, I began building financial positions that would profit from Meridian's downfall. Short positions on their stock, carefully structured through various intermediaries. Put options timed to specific dates. Credit default swaps on their corporate debt. It wasn't just about making money, though I certainly intended to. These positions were designed to accelerate a collapse once it began. Markets are psychological. When sophisticated investors start betting against a firm, others notice and follow. The final phase required precise timing. The trigger would be the Zenith Energy acquisition, Meridian's largest ever. The deal Harrison had leveraged his entire reputation on. The deal that, according to Sarah's evidence, was built on fraudulent valuations and hidden liabilities. 3 days before the Zenith deal was set to close, I activated my plan. First, the information campaign. Using encryption and anonymous servers, I sent detailed document packages to 5 financial journalists known for breaking fraud stories. I included internal memos, transaction logs, and detailed explanations of how the numbers had been manipulated. I'd spent weeks making these packages airtight, no speculation, just facts that could be verified. Simultaneously, I uploaded key documents to a secure server and provided access details to Edward at the SEC through our established back channel. Not as a formal whistleblower, that would have taken too long, but as an anonymous source concerned about potential irregularities. The next morning, as expected, the first story broke in the Financial Times. Questions surround Meridian's Zenith valuation. The article was careful, citing unnamed sources and documents obtained, but the implications were clear. Within hours, other outlets had picked up the story, each adding new details from my packages. Meridian's stock dipped 3% by midday, concerning but not catastrophic. Harrison issued a press statement dismissing the allegations as baseless and reaffirming the Zenith deal's solidity. I watched from my apartment, tracking multiple screens, waiting. The second wave hit the following morning. Bloomberg published internal emails showing Harrison had been explicitly warned about Zenith's hidden liabilities. Reuters revealed that Meridian had been artificially inflating trading volumes to mask losses in their commodities division. The Wall Street Journal questioned whether Meridian's last 3 quarterly reports had been accurate. The stock dropped 15% in the first hour of trading. My phone buzzed constantly. Former colleagues, industry contacts, all wondering if I knew anything. I told them nothing. By midday, the SEC announced it was reviewing the situation. Trading in Meridian stock was temporarily halted after hitting circuit breakers. When it resumed, the selling was relentless. That afternoon, my inside source at Meridian, not Sarah, whom I deliberately kept distant to protect her, but another disgruntled executive, texted me. Harrison's locked himself in his office with the general counsel. Everyone's panicking. I almost felt pity. Almost. The final blow came from an unexpected direction. The night before the Zenith deal was to close, their CEO pulled out publicly, citing disturbing allegations and loss of confidence in Meridian's disclosures. Within minutes, Meridian's credit rating was downgraded. Their financing collapsed. The stock futures pointed to a 40% drop at opening. I poured myself a scotch and watched the sunset over the city. Tomorrow would bring chaos, but tonight, I savored the calm. I'll never forget watching CNBC the next morning as Harrison emerged from Meridian's headquarters, surrounded by reporters. His face was ashen, his hands trembling slightly as he read a prepared statement announcing the termination of the Zenith deal and his temporary leave of absence, while the company cooperates fully with regulatory inquiries. Within a week, Meridian stock had lost 68% of its value. Trading desks cut their exposure. Clients pulled funds. The board fired Harrison and 3 other executives. Class action lawsuits multiplied daily. The FBI opened a criminal investigation. I closed my short positions gradually, careful not to attract attention. The profits were substantial, enough to ensure I'd never need to work again. But that wasn't the point. The point was justice. The closest I came to being discovered was when a determined financial reporter tracked me down at my apartment. Some people are saying you might have had advanced knowledge of Meridian's problems, she said, microphone extended. I looked directly into her camera. I was terminated for raising compliance concerns. Beyond that, I have no comment on Meridian's current difficulties. The perfect non-answer. 2 months later, the SEC filed formal charges against Harrison and 5 other Meridian executives. Edward, my contact, never revealed his source. The evidence spoke for itself. It's been a year since Meridian's collapse. The company still exists, though at a fraction of its former size and under new management. Most of the employees found positions elsewhere, including Sarah, who now works at a respected firm with a strong ethical culture. Harrison pleaded guilty to securities fraud to avoid a lengthier trial. He's serving 7 years in a minimum security prison. His reputation is destroyed, his fortune largely consumed by legal fees and settlements. As for me, I moved to a small coastal town. I consult occasionally, teach a finance course at the local college, and spend my evenings watching the waves. I sleep better than I have in years. Was it worth it? That's a complicated question. My actions cost many innocent people their jobs, at least temporarily. Pension funds invested in Meridian took significant losses. The financial system absorbed yet another shock to its already fragile trust. But corruption thrives in darkness. Sometimes the only way to disinfect is with harsh light, no matter the temporary pain it causes. I don't consider myself a hero. I was angry, yes, but my revenge wasn't built on rage. It was built on calculation, on using the very systems and knowledge Meridian had taught me against them. They created the weapon of their own destruction and placed it in my hands. The irony isn't lost on me that I used many of the same skills that made me successful at Meridian. Strategic thinking, relationship building, understanding market psychology, to bring them down. The tools themselves aren't inherently corrupt. It's how we choose to use them. Sometimes I wonder if Harrison ever realized it was me. If in his prison cell, he connects the dots and understands who orchestrated his downfall. Part of me hopes he does. Part of me hopes he knows what it feels like to have everything taken away in an instant. In finance, they teach you to understand risk and reward. Meridian forgot the most basic lesson. Never betray someone who knows all your secrets. If you were in my position, would you have done the same?